Okay, I got a riddle that isn't really a riddle. Let's see if you can figure it out. Before we get to this photographic riddle, and boy oh boy, you can fight over this one because you'll never figure it out. Or at least some of you might figure it out. um, by the way, anytime someone uses the word magnification when they talk about sticking any lens on a crop sensor camera, do we need to state the obvious that there is no magnification going on? It's like, well, I stick a 300 millimeter lens on my DX crop sensor camera. You know, I've got that magnification going on because the 300 times 1.5 is 450. No, all you've done is you've taken the same lens on a full frame sensor, which would be like this. It's like, hello, 300 millimeter on a full frame sensor. You stick it on a crop sensor camera, and it's like, hello. What has changed? You've gone from this to this. Okay? Let me point out something really succinct to you, because analogies sometimes serve best in telling people what the F is going on. Okay? We've gone from this to this. That's a change in field of view. Hello, hello. We have not gone from this, that lens on the full frame, to this. It's like, hello, magnification. You know, this is not going on. Hello. This is called a change of field of view. 300 millimeter, full frame, 300 millimeter on a crop sensor. Every lens, repeat this after me. Every lens on Earth ever made craps out the same light, irrespective of the size of the sensor that's underneath it. Let's say that one more time so you never forget this shit, because this is what people don't understand. And this includes depth of field, includes everything. Every lens on Earth craps out the exact same light, irrespective, with no regard for whatever sensor is underneath it. No lens knows nor changes anything, ever, in history, on any camera. When you stick it between a full frame or a crop or a full frame and throw it on a micro four thirds with an adapter, I don't care what you put underneath it. Okay? Undeniable. Irrefutable. Existentially carved in stone. There are some crazy people out there. Hello! We know who that is, right? Telling people that you shouldn't stick full frame lenses on crop sensors. Bullshit. Yeah. No. That's not true. It's like, oh yeah, you get worse images when you do that. You're magnifying the errors. No, you're not. You're not doing that. No. 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 No, you're not. So what do you think is better? Everybody loves talking about teleconverters. Teleconverters to me are the devil, even though I've got like 4 teleconverters. The only thing you should be slapping a teleconverter on is like a huge ass prime, 300 millimeters and above, basically. I like a 200 millimeter f4. That's okay too. Kinda, sort of. Teleconverters are evil. They should never go on zooms. And, they screw with the light, by the way. Okay? So, which is better? A teleconverter on like a large prime? Or the same 300 millimeter, for example, on a DX camera which has a tighter pixel pitch? So which is better? Okay? I got a 300 millimeter on a 300 millimeter with, like I say, 1.4 teleconverter, and I throw that on a full frame D810. Is that better, or is it better to throw that same 300 millimeter on a crop sensor camera? Now here's where you have to differentiate out, let's say the D500 for example, or D7200, doesn't matter. That's 24 megapixels. Okay, here's what you have to differentiate out: the true optical magnification that's going on between that lens and the camera. Okay, lens, teleconverter, camera. And the fact that you take that same lens without the teleconverter and you slap it on this camera, or say D7200, D7100, but what you have there is more translational information per square millimeter of sensor, which gives you more ability to crop. Okay, nature, wildlife photographer. Obviously we're talking about not framing, don't use teleconverters. You don't use teleconverters. You don't. use teleconverters to do like large prime portraitures. Like, hold on, honey, I'm gonna stick a teleconverter on my 300. No, you zoom with your feet. I've actually seen people stupidly doing this. Like, why are you using a teleconverter for that like 300 millimeter prime for portrait work? It's like, well, it's like, what? What? That's for sports action, and obviously it interferes with autofocus speed 9 times out of 10. It always jacks with the light. It's for nature and wildlife photography. Yeah, that's what it's for. So which is better, a teleconverter or the tighter pixel pitch of a crop sensor camera? Obviously, you could say, well, both are better. I got the pixel pitch of 4.2 micrometers on the D7100, D7200, which use the same sensor, by the way, and a teleconverter. That was weird. I heard a weird noise. I think it's my freezer. Obviously, by using both, that's certainly the best answer. But we're not talking about that. Teleconverter and a crop sensor pixel pitch. So which do you think between the two is the best? And please correct anybody else anytime they tell you that magnification is going on when you take a prime lens or any lens and stick it on a crop sensor camera, because all you've done is change the field of view. You've changed the crop of the image circle, but you haven't magnified anything. I cringe every time I see the word magnification. So, teleconverter versus tight pixel pitch. And then throw something else in there. What would something else be? That would be a straight out of camera high ISO signal processing. The Nikon D3, for example, or the D700, there are some huge honking photo sites on those sensors. But the high ISO noise is pretty bad. Okay, that's undeniable too. Now, it's like, that doesn't make any sense, The Nikon D3 has some enormous photo sites on its sensor, and it's a 12 megapixel camera, and it used to be really expensive. Why is ISO 3200 grainy? Because there's 36 megapixels on a Nikon D810. The pixel pitch is a lot smaller, so you have less native gain on the sensor over the same period of time. So how does that work? And the answer to that is 80 converters and SNR firmware. 80 converter, SNR firmware. Yeah. That's also the same reason the D7200 has better high ISO performance than the D7100. They're both the same sensor, 80 converters, SNR firmware. That's also the same reason why the Nikon D750 has better high ISO low light performance than the D610. Those are also both exactly the same sensor. But the D610 output at high ISO low noise is radically different than the D750 is. So, a camera is not a sensor. That's also the other screw up everybody makes. Well, it's got a Sony sensor in there. And it's like, yeah, and your Sony camera's got a Canon lens on it too. It's like, you got a Sony sensor in your Nikon? It's like, yeah, you got a Canon lens on your Sony. A camera is not a sensor. If you ever take a camera apart, there's a lot of crap in there. And only one of the pieces of crap, man, every DSLR is just jam-packed full with so much stuff. It's unbelievable. I've made many, many videos that you can see that on. Sensor is only one thing that's in there. The rest of it are a lot of really neat chips with, a permanent firmware on there, which is inalterable for signal processing. Now you can alter the firmware for how the camera operates and stuff. That is upgradable firmware, but the hard-coded noise processing firmware and whatnot, the 80 converters, that's unalterable. The only way you alter that is by selling it and buying a different camera. You need to keep those things into consideration. There's no perfect camera, and there's really only two groups of cameras. There's sports action wildlife and basically low noise, and the other is a portraiture / landscape. There are really only those two categories. It's like, I ask people, it's like, what do you recommend you buy? It's like, well, I don't know, what are you doing? What's your budget and what sort of photography do you do? And really, there are only those two criteria, because the cameras for high ISO, low noise, sports action, and wildlife are usually all in one group, almost always. At least they are today. And the other one is for landscape portraiture, usually slower, not always, but basically slower, more methodical. Thanks for watching. Catch you later. If you like this video and drop a buck or two, tell me jump off a cliff, whatever makes you happy. Big fat juicy pizza would be nice, like right now. Like, ooh my god, pepperoni, mushrooms, extra cheese. Bow, bow, chicka, chicka, bow, bow. Ooh, no. I'm having pizza. I'm having delusions of pizza, said the fat guy, right? Thanks for watching. Bye. I got a photo shoot tomorrow. I gotta go to bed early.